write down exactly what's on the board. I want you to put stuff in your own words. So number one, what is fair trade? You guys got to get that better, I think, than what we got. Okay, fair trade. And I'm going to say a lot more than what goes on the board, like you guys really already know. Okay, whatever it is, I give you this whole large picture. It's not just up here, but the crux of it, I want you to understand what fair trade is. Okay, so fair trade organizations in general are working toward developing a relationship between two different entities. One entity is large corporations. I've used the example of Nestle all day, so I'm going to stick with Nestle, okay? You guys know Nestle as a producer of like chocolate or, what's that? Or in general cocoa, like for chocolate milk. I love me some chocolate milk. Who doesn't love chocolate Nestle Quick, right? Okay. So, to get this chocolate or this chocolate milk powder or whatever it is, they need cocoa beans, right? Right? Well, where do we get cocoa beans in the world? South America, maybe parts of Africa. A lot of times they come from Western Africa, okay? Or your ambiguous entity of sub-Saharan Africa we like to talk about, right? Literally the area of Africa south of the Sahara Desert. Now we understand this area to be some of the poorest, least developed places in the world, right? Yes, okay? Ghana. Let's say we've got a cocoa producer in Ghana, cocoa farmer in Ghana, right? Ghana farmer. Do you think he's got a right-hand man working for Nestle in the United States? No, probably not, right? Poor farmer in Ghana has a lot of barriers when it comes to him and who's buying his cocoa in the United States from Nestle, right? It's not like he just goes, hey, I got this sweet cocoa plant, Nestle, you want some? And throws it across the Atlantic Ocean. Catch! Obviously not going to happen, right? Okay? So what he needs to do is he needs to be able to sell it somehow to Nestle. But Nestle isn't going to be concerning themselves with getting to know every little individual cocoa farmer in Ghana, right? Obviously. They are more concerned with the idea that they need to be producing chocolate, making good tasting candy, advertising everything, and making sure that everything's on the up and up so they can actually sell candy and chocolate milk to you. Because that's what they're worried about. They're not worried about poor farmer Joe in Ghana, right? If his name's Joe, whatever, he's just pulling a name out. Okay, anyway, so, Ghana man, right, is having to sell his chocolate to somebody that knows the area, his cocoa, not chocolate, sorry. His cocoa to somebody who knows the area most likely, in the form of a middleman, if you will, okay? A middleman being what?
Pointed at someone else other than you.
Well, that's not nice. Is it Tim?
No, you walked over by Tim.
Well, I am over by Tim.
I know.
Okay, anyway. Come on, cameraman. Anyway, sorry. Here we go. So, Ghana man sells it to middleman because middleman knows the area. Middleman knows Ghana, right? Middleman then works to sell to different middleman and sells the stuff to Nestle, right? So all those middlemen in the middle of Ghana man selling his cocoa and Nestle getting it to turn it into chocolate need to make money too, right? Middlemen got to pay their got to pay the bills. They got to feed their families. They got to eat too, right? Okay. So middlemen traverse the Atlantic Ocean, they overcome the language barriers, they do all the grunt work in the middle. That's why they get paid too. So, you think when you buy your gallon of chocolate milk in the United States from, you know, whatever, it's $4 a gallon or whatever, you think Ghana man is getting that $4 a gallon. No, definitely not, right? We got to pay middlemen in the middle a bunch of money along the way. So Ghana man's making very little money. This is why his region stays undeveloped, right? Because they're just doing everything they can to make ends meet. Middlemen are making all the money. Nestle's making all the money, right? They're not, okay? Fair trade seeks to equal that playing field out, right? So, fair trade is not about charity. Fair trade is not a developed nation like the United States saying, here, Ghana, have some money. You're good now, develop. Okay? That's not going to lead to sustained development anyway, right? Fair trade is organizations, like a lot of times non-profit organizations, I'll explain that a little bit better in a second, okay? That seek to eliminate the middlemen, that do that extra work, that work to establish themselves with corporations in the developed world and producers of raw materials in the primary market, or in the primary sector kind of jobs like you read about, that produce raw materials like cocoa off the cocoa trees. Kind of make sense? Okay? So, these non-profit organizations work to eliminate these middlemen. They function as middlemen, but they're non-profit organizations, so they're not trying to make lots of money. They're trying to sustain their workers, and they're trying to just exist. Part of the reason they do this is for the warmth of the, yay, we're helping the world kind of ideas, right? Yeah, Will.
So besides the yay, we're helping the world, they do have
Right.
What's the difference between the middleman's pay and these guys?
Well, it'll be less, first of all, because they're not after making, like I said, a profit. They're just looking to sustain themselves, to make a normal living wage. They're fine. You know, they're not trying to be buying Ferraris and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm exaggerating, but you get the idea. They're not trying to exploit the market. They're not trying to drive up prices all the time. They're trying to hold everything constant. They're trying to get money put back into the developing communities. Okay? So they can develop things like education, you know, better access to technology, better access to electricity, things like that, right? But they're also, a lot of times nonprofits, they are helped run by some of the things I've got, like I brought up one of the biggest ones in the United States called Fair Trade USA, and highlighted the fact that on their website, they say who they are. They're a nonprofit 501c3. That's a tax distinction in the United States because how Fair Trade USA, they're nonprofit organizations, they get their money to pay their workers and do the stuff they do, like Will was saying, by, in part, not paying taxes. U.S. government says, look, if you're going to say you're not going to make a profit, fine, you don't have to pay our taxes. So their company doesn't have to pay taxes. That's a big bonus right away, okay? Plus, also, they do get some money from their activities. They get some money for being the middleman. But they don't maybe take as much because, A, they don't have to pay taxes, right? And B, you know, they're not doing this to get rich. That kind of makes sense? The last part is they also take donations. Because other people around the world go, oh, well, that's really nice of you that you're helping out poor places like Ghana. Here, I have some extra cash, take this, right? Donations are a way of life. You guys donated money to Mr. E's, you know, stash fashion, you know how that works, right? Okay? So those are three ways they kind of get more income than maybe a typical middleman would. Kind of make sense? Yes, Liz?
Don't some churches file under the 501c3?
Yes, actually. Churches are also a lot of times a non-profit organization. Churches don't have to pay taxes a lot of times too. Because, you know, churches get lots of donations, you know, your offering, if you will, right? And that's how they operate and run their business too. But yes, churches are another entity like that. Schools are too. So, like, if your school buys something, for example, like you guys are running around the auto shop or engineering academy kids, like, we got lots of stuff in there. When we wanted to buy a machine or something, we didn't have to pay taxes on it. Because the government's like, well, we're giving you money to operate anyway, why are we going to pay or charge you taxes? It's just cannibalizing themselves, right? Yeah. Which doesn't make any sense, right? So, make sense? We cool? So we get where fair trade gets their money from, we get how it works, yes? That's number one. And number two, how does fair trade help those in developing nations? They take the money that the middlemen would have been paid, okay? The profit that these organizations would have made, they give it to the communities, they give it to the developing nations area to try and develop stuff like education, like their access to technology. Yes, Will?
So does this apply to not only federal taxes, but also statewide taxes?
It depends on the organization and the state, but in most cases, it's mostly federal. Federal taxes are more than most states anyway. It depends on, yeah, it totally depends. There's some states that don't charge income taxes at all. Florida, Texas, no income tax. So if you hate taxes, you know, you guys shouldn't hate taxes. You don't actually have to pay them yet, unless you have a job, which is probably not very many. A couple of you, maybe? Maybe not yet. Once you get a job, a car or something. Anyway, moving on. We good? Okay, fair trade was just one thing we didn't do well. I put that right away just to make sure we got it, because it's a little bit unrelated to the other stuff you didn't do well. Okay, the rest of my rant's really going to cover more with natural resources and have some basis in the economy and how stuff works like that. Okay, we got to be careful when I'm talking about nations. Okay, and I think a lot of times when we talk about large-scale economic transactions or economy on a large scale, like macroeconomics that you can study when you're macho economics. Anyway, when you do that, and when you study AP economics as a senior, because you're all going to do that. Yeah. Anyway, one of your semesters is dealing with macroeconomics. It's this idea of economy on large scales. Macro, macho, right? Get it? Micro being small, microeconomics. That's like individual people making decisions. Whole different topic. What? Yeah, like last year when I had the intro to AP Social Studies class, I told you guys about ad nauseum, right? For microeconomics, I used myself buying a house as an example because I was buying a house at the time. Crazy, right? Well, and selling a house. It's crazy, yeah. Anyway, I'm off topic. Back on topic. Sorry, those of you watching at home. Anyway, this is weird. But anyway. Oh, yeah, Grace, you missed it. Zach's taping me with my iPad. So I can't say anything crazy.
Well,
Or
I
two.
kind of guessed.
Oh, did you?
But why? I don't
Put it on black, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you put it on black, or you can watch it if they're gone. Like Maddie's not here today, she emailed me and said, hey, what's going on? I'm like, oh, shoot. Is that on? Okay. Alright, I'm back, sorry, here we go. So, resources. When I talk about macroeconomics and everything, I think we gotta make the distinction between groups of people and corporations in countries making economic decisions and governments of nations. A lot of times people will say, well, the U.S. is buying lots of oil from the Middle East, okay? Well, it's not the U.S. government going, hey, Middle East, we need some oil. You like sell a bunch of oil? That's totally not what's happening, okay? You've got individual companies and people in the United States trying to buy oil on a large scale in bulk and making a choice to buy it where it's cheapest, right? And if the oil is the cheapest in the Middle East, that's where they're going to buy it. They're going to bring it to the United States and we'll use it to make it into gasoline or whatever we need to use it for, right? And when I say we, I'm talking about the U.S. companies making those choices. Does that make sense? Okay? Well, don't get this twisted. Don't think, well, the U.S. just bought a lot of oil from Canada. No. It's not the government doing that. Those are individual companies making those choices. Now, the exceptions that I think you're bringing up is if you're a communist nation and you own all the businesses and every ounce of property in the nation, well, yeah, then you're right. Then the government is making the choice to do that. But not very many communist nations left in the world today, right? So that's not the majority of what's going on. Yes? Yes? Okay. Will, what?
I was just wondering, isn't the U.S. government inclined at least a little bit because of the subsidies that the U.S. pays?
Well, it depends on the industry, totally. But yes, a little bit.
Well, I mean, from your oil example, the U.S. subsidizes, what is it?
True. What I would say to that is that the companies themselves still have a choice of where to get the oil. The price of which they're paying for it is different based on the subsidies, and the U.S. government does it in an effort to keep gas prices or oil prices down a bit so our economy doesn't tank. And it's stable, because if oil prices fluctuate really wildly and shoot up, that could make people completely stop trying to trade stuff or transport stuff. That could kill our economy, right? Even though oil prices do move and gas prices do move, right? They don't skyrocket like one day it's $2 a gallon, the next day it's $8 a gallon because of the subsidies.
Don't our taxes pay for it anyway?
Yes.
So, would we just be paying the same? It is the state.
Definitely not. Because, it totally depends on your income level, depends on your activities and what taxes you're paying. Like, for example, one of the taxes everybody pays, that even you guys pay, is sales tax, right? Your sales tax in Waukesha County is higher than if you went to, say, Dane County. Well, I shouldn't say, sorry, that's a bad example. Walworth County, okay? You guys know where Walworth County is? Whitewater area.
Which
Okay,
direction?
Whitewater, Janesville, southwest of us. Okay, you've heard of Whitewater? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, good. There, like 45 minutes southwest of here? Yeah?
Sure.
Yeah. Not quite an hour, I don't think. Anyway, regardless, sorry, your sales tax is a little more. Why? Well, because we're still paying for Miller Park for the brewers. You're welcome, brewers, right? So you pay like, when you go to this is the example I always use. When you go to McDonald's, you want to hit up the dollar menu, get a McDouble. How much do you pay for that McDouble?
$1.06.
$1.06, 106, right? That extra penny, everybody else in the state is paying 105.
Whoa!
It depends on the county you're in. Like Walworth County, you're paying 105. Go to Whitewater, buy a McDouble, you pay 105. Here you pay 106. Why? That extra penny goes to pay for Miller Park.
Well, that's what
Right? And enough of those McDoubles will add up to one big stadium, like hopefully 20 years later.
Maybe.
We're still paying for it. Come on.
No
Brewers.
understanding.
I like Miller Park. I'm not saying that. You know what I mean. Actually, I still need to rehang my Brewers flag up. It totally fell down. I'm off topic again. Back to the topic. Okay, where was that? You asked about subsidies. That's right. So it totally. I mean, the amount everybody pays in taxes is totally dependent on what you do. Like the amount of taxes I pay. I'm not going to bash my salary. Don't get me twisted here. I make plenty of money. Don't get me wrong. I'd like some more, but you know. Anyway, right, exactly. Right. Who wouldn't? But what I'm saying is the amount of taxes I pay is less than, say, I think I'm okay saying this. Mr. Joint makes more than me. He's my boss. Yes, he's the principal. Okay. He pays more in taxes than I do because he makes more money. Make sense? Okay. All right. Wow. Back to the topic. Okay. Included in today's rant is some basic level vocabulary that I just need to make sure we understand. Some of you may roll your eyes and go, seriously?